Legs, Paul George is the missing championship piece for the Sixers. Fact or fiction?
I'm going to say fiction. The reason I'm saying that is because that's an oversimplification of the problem. It's not just add Paul George and here we go, we're going to win a championship. Okay, first of all, you still got to deal with the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference. But to me, the bigger issue for the Sixers continues to be, can we get Joel Embiid 100% healthy on April 15th, ready for a 2-month run? That's the biggest issue facing the Sixers.
There's a lot of issues facing the Sixers right now. They need to make a deep playoff run. Austin, Donovan Mitchell should commit to the Cavs after the signing of Kenny Atkinson.
Fact. Kenny has a history of being able to develop guards. As you know, we saw some of the best years of Lowe, LeVert, who's also on the Cavs right now under him. And listen, the grass isn't always greener. You know, there's situations out there that could possibly fit Donovan better, but he's got Garland, he's got Mobley, he's got good players around him, a good supporting cast. This is a team that if they can improve in some, small areas, can make even a farther push next postseason.
Donovan Mitchell is one of those stars that I think gets forgotten sometimes because of the places he's played. Legs, easy one for you. The Warriors should let Klay walk.
I'm going to say fiction, and I know that might not be the best answer in terms of from a business standpoint of trying to make this organization relevant around Steph Curry, but I just think some guys, with what they have done for an organization over the course of their career, deserve that right. And now listen, if he wants to leave, that's a totally different conversation. I think the Warriors in that case would acquiesce to him.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always difficult to see these franchise players in different jerseys. But Mike Dunleavy spoke yesterday about Klay Thompson and the possibility of him leaving or bringing him back.
We want him back. I think we said that all along. Hopefully he'll come back. But to say like a guy like Klay Thompson, who's meant so much to this franchise, to completely strip the emotion away from it, I think that's almost impossible. But, this is a business.
Zach, listening to Mike Dunleavy, do you think the Warriors should let Klay Thompson leave?
It sounds like they're emotionally prepared for the possibility. And I think there's some hurt feelings on both sides that need to be mended for this reunion to take place. We're going to know a lot on Friday. June 28th, there's a deadline for Chris Paul's contract to become guaranteed for $30 million or for the Warriors to essentially waive him. In between now and then, the Warriors can work to find trades for Chris Paul that bring back somebody who can help their team. If they bring in another high-priced player, it just becomes financially very difficult for them to keep this whole team together. They don't want to pay this gigantic tax bill for a team that struggles just to make the playoffs. And Klay, look, everybody needs shooting. He can fit anywhere. It's just a matter of, who has the money and the means to go get him and give him a role that he wants. I look at Denver, for instance. If Kentavious Caldwell-Pope leaves Denver, is that a fit for Klay Thompson? But they might not be able to get to anything above the little baby mid-level exception, which is $5 million. Is that enough for Klay? What's his priority going to be? Money, winning, going back to Golden State. Romantically, my romantic soul wants these three dudes to play together forever. We don't always get what we want.
Austin, the question about emotion, right? All of these things are personal. They always talk about it's strictly business. How much does emotion play into these negotiations with Klay Thompson?
It plays a big part just due to the history and the success that he's had there in that organization. When you look at someone like Klay and everything that he's been through, the highs, the lows, the slumps, the dynamic performances, he's been through it all there. He obviously unfollowed the Warriors the other day, which was a whole thing within itself. You don't do something without emotionally having,
But that's like a breakup.
No, that's what I'm saying. He feels something. There's something there, obviously. There's obviously dialogue already going on. Numbers probably being thrown out there that he's not okay with. He feels, disrespected just by everything that he's probably done for the organization. You could already see even in Dunleavy's tone, they're preparing for the possibility of him possibly leaving. It would be a sad thing to see. I think as a player in today's day who's moved around a lot, I was a journeyman. We see in modern day NBA all these players move around. It is really cool to see a guy play one place his entire career, have rings there. This is a guy who's probably going to have a statue there one day alongside Steph. His jersey definitely would be hung. Hopefully he stays put.
Legs, how does that conversation go when you talk about what Klay has done for the organization and his options he should have?
It's tough because there are players that have been in this boat before, and it almost feels more like, from the organization standpoint, a career achievement award than it does what you're expecting future production to be, right? And guys sometimes fall into this category because they're in that in-between phase of their games. Problem with Klay right now is the drop-off was so dramatic. in terms of his inability to make shots at that consistent rate that we were used to, that's when the Warriors are starting to wonder about the number. Is he going to be unreasonable about the number or about his role? And if either of those things, like he's holding on to with a great deal of pride, it might force the Warriors' hand in that situation. So I think right now, you're trying to get to a place where I think the mutual respect kicks back in and you can find a number and a role that Klay Thompson's comfortable
From a
with.
roster standpoint, what should the Warriors do to field the best team this year?
Well, look, the bottom line is this. People want to talk about Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors contending. I just don't think that's going to happen if you run it back. I don't think you can run it back with this core and think that that's going to happen in the Western Conference. So you have to build around the margin, Zach, and I don't know what exactly that means and what that looks like, who they get rid of, who they jettison off, what they replace it with to stay competitive around Steph Curry, who's still playing at an elite level.
So our last memory of Klay Thompson is 0 of 10 in a must-win game, right? He did shoot 40% on threes for like the last 40, 50 games of the season. The dude can still shoot. He can't defend like he used to. And here's the reality for the Warriors. As long as Curry is there, they have an obligation to try to win, to try to contend. The question is, does Klay help that goal enough to hold back a little bit Moses Moody and Kuminga and Podziemski and all the players they need to start playing more to transition to the next era? And can you build a championship contending team with Steph and those guys getting more minutes? It's a really hard puzzle to solve. And Klay may not be a part of it anymore. And that's just the reality. We'll see what the money is and how it works. But he can still, the dude can still shoot.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And Klay Thompson was such a huge part of the championship run of the Golden State Warriors.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Think I'm gonna try to wear, I pull up all brains. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's 88 over here,